Amy Fullerton.
Recording in progress.
Amy Fullerton. Pam Knight Stauffer. Diane Charnowski. Linda Golder.
I have two, Dan.
Okay.
Patricia A. Piper
Patricia A. Piper.
and Alexis Safadi.
Alexis Safadi.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bonnie Cheeple.
Bonnie Teeple.
Richard Wiley.
Richard Wiley.
Linda Smith.
Linda Smith.
Also Linda Wiley.
Linda Wiley.
I have two.
Yes.
Gavin Martin
Gavin Martin.
and Xander Dickey.
Xander Dickey. Yes. Dennis Ormsby. Brenda Ormsby. Lori White. Chuck Anderson. Are there any other nominations for World Conference delegates? Okay, thank you. So there's a duplicate, but we'll clear that up. As long as we don't reach 172, we don't need to correct that now. Thank you. Hearing no other nominations, the chair declares nominations for 2025 World Conference delegates closed. Since there are fewer than 172 nominees, the election is by plurality. The chair seeks unanimous consent for electing all nominees to serve as delegates to the 2025 World Conference. Is there any objection? Without objection, all nominees are elected to serve as delegates to the 2025 World Conference. The remaining seats may be filled by appointment by the Mission Center President following the World Conference Credentials Committee procedures. So members are encouraged to contact the Mission Center President after the conference to be added to the delegate list if you are willing to serve. A ballot will be necessary for the Park of the Pines Board election. The ballot will be distributed electronically to delegates registered with an email address provided. For those who did not provide an email address or who use the same email address as another individual, a separate code or ballot will need to be prepared, and that will be taken care of during the lunch recess. Nominees should be listed randomly on each ballot. The system changes the order on each ballot, so there is no preference in alphabetical listing. The chair is aware that members often express concern about determining how to vote for nominees to elected positions when candidates are unknown to them or they are not involved with a particular board or ministry. Brief biographical information for nominees submitted in advance was gathered and printed for the consideration of delegates. It is the right of each delegate to abstain or not vote on any item of business for which the delegate does not have a position. This means if you are not involved with a particular campground or do not have an opinion on who should serve as a director for the particular campground, you may, but do not have to vote for directors on that campground. Delegates may vote for up to 5 nominees for each campground board, but are not required to cast all 5 votes. On the ballot, when it's received, a delegate may check between 1 and 5 names on the ballot, or check the box to abstain to not submit a vote for any directors on that board. The polls will be open at the time the ballot is received, which should be approximately 10:45 following the morning recess, depending on our schedule. And the polls will then remain open through about 3 o'clock when we return from the afternoon lunch recess. And the chair will then take final questions on the ballot or any issues at that time. So again, there will be time throughout the day, and particularly the lunch break, to cast those votes. The chair will make more comments about that when the polls are open later this morning. At this time, the chair recognizes Stacy Cram, member of the First Presidency, to bring greetings from the World Church and share recommendations for Mission Center officers.
Thank you, guys. This is kind of like old home week for me. Stepping up here, it's like familiar faces, and driving in here last night, it was kind of like the anticipation you have when you're driving to a place that you've been to lots of times and where there's people that you love waiting there, and just all that feeling of expectation. So thank you for welcoming Steve and I so graciously this morning back into your midst. We have missed you. I was trying to figure out when the last time we were actually here. And, I don't know about you, but the pandemic, I think, just like wiped out my memory. There's things that happened before the pandemic, there's things that happened during the pandemic, and then time sort of started again. So all I can say for sure is that it was before the pandemic that we were last up here. Our daughter, which of course graduated from the University of Michigan med school, she's in her 8th year of residency in Boston right now. So it's been a while even since she's been here. So it's it's good. It's good to be back. I want to bring greetings on behalf of your apostle, Locke Mackay. He would have been here with you, but originally, you may know, he was planned to participate in a writers' summit in the Philippines. We had about 60 people from around the world who were gathering at the Shaw Center, which is a Community of Christ building that I think it's north of Manila. It's about a 10-hour bus ride north of Manila. I don't know if any of you have been watching world news over the past several weeks, but the Philippines have experienced some major typhoons, a lot of flooding, a lot of washed out roads. And at the time that everyone was supposed to be getting on airplanes and heading that direction, the typhoon had passed, although there had been about 100 deaths in the area. But the weather forecasters, no offense if anyone's a forecaster in the room, but we also sometimes call them weather guessers, were anticipating that the typhoon was going to hit the ocean on the other side, and then it was going to cause it to circle back and come back across kind of the northern part, which is where everyone would have been heading to. So the decision was made painfully last weekend for that group to not fly, because moving 60 people around and making last minute decisions when they're coming from all different countries was just too difficult. So as it turns out, Locke is actually safely in Kansas City, Missouri today, but does send his greetings. There are some, though, who did travel because they are gathered today for Mission Center Conference as well. And so Mark Urett, who is the field bishop, traveled from Texas. Mareva Arnaud, who is the current field apostle, traveled from French Polynesia. And Scott Murphy went on behalf of the presidency. So the three of them are with the people of the Philippines today for their Mission Center conference. And so they are sending your greetings, because I kind of spoke on behalf of you and said, bring our greetings to that Mission Center conference, and their greetings, of course, are coming here. So President Veazey is also home in Independence today, and he also sends his greetings. It has been, as you can well imagine, a very difficult couple of years. A lot of things have been going on, a lot of difficult decisions. We're really grateful to have Steve back in the chair since about February of last year. He is so grateful for everyone's prayers around the church and all the expressions of support that he has received. And so he wanted to make sure to thank this Mission Center as well. We also today celebrate a pretty extended time of leadership under the expertise of Dan Nowitzki. And so Dan was just coming in as Mission Center president as I was leaving as field apostle. And so really, the blessings of him as your Mission Center president have very little to do with me. But, you know, like any good leader, we like to take credit for the good things that we kind of leave behind as we move on. So Dan, because Locke could not be here, he sent a letter that I would like to take the privilege, since you gave me the mic, to share. So, Dear Dan, I want to express our deep appreciation and heartfelt gratitude for your years of dedicated service and leadership of the Michigan Mission Center. Your unwavering commitment to mission, compassion for the most vulnerable, care for the environment, and calm and steady guidance have left an indelible mark on the church and on the individuals you've ministered to. Throughout your years of service, you've demonstrated true and humble servant leadership. You've nurtured our sense of community, asked thoughtful and insightful questions, exemplified fairness, and lived the life of a disciple in the most authentic way. Your influence has extended beyond the church walls, blessing countless families and the children they have fostered, and in some cases adopted. Your legacy will live on both in the church and outside of it. As you step down, please know that you will be deeply missed and not forgotten. We are grateful for the sacrifices you and Abby have made and the passion you've poured into your work. May this next chapter of your life be filled with the same joy and peace you've so generously given to others. Thank you once again for your service, and may God continue to bless and guide you on your journey. With gratitude and blessings, Lachlan Mackay, Apostle, Northeast USA Mission Field. It's a gift to be able to have someone serve for a 10-year span of time like Dan has done. And, you know, like all service that comes as a burden, you look a little older now that you did when we first set you apart. I think that's probably a sign of the burdens that you carried on our behalf. So thank you so very much, Dan. So, with Dan's desire to step down, that creates an opening in the Mission Center president position. And Locke and Dan and other leadership of Michigan looked at different options and considered what was the best way forward for the Mission Center. And from those conversations, they brought forward the name of Linda Stanbridge and presented Linda to the First Presidency. And so you will find in your conference material, I think around pages, let's see, Jessica's letter's on page 8. I am now not remembering where the Mission Center president, it's in your notes. Same one, okay. Gotcha. All right, I'm looking at it and I'm not reading fast enough. Yeah, so on page 8 is the recommendation letter from Scott Murphy for the presidency and from Ron Hardman on behalf of the presiding bishopric that recommends for the conference's consideration both Linda Stambridge as your new Mission Center president and a continuation of Jessica Montague as your Mission Center financial officer. I will not read the letter for you since it is printed, but we bring forward both of these two capable leaders for the conference's consideration. And with that, Dan, I will turn things back to you.
Thank you, President Cram. The First Presidency has recommended that the conference sustain the appointment of Linda Stanbridge to serve as Mission Center President and Jessica Montague to serve as Mission Center Financial Officer in 2025. The letter of recommendations can be found on page 8 of the conference handouts. If there is no objection, both recommendations will be considered together with one vote taken. If any member would wish to divide the question and vote separately, this is the time to make the request. Without objection, the question before the conference is on sustaining Linda Stanbridge as Mission Center President and Jessica Montague as Financial Officer for 2025. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, voting will take place by polling. Those in favor of sustaining the recommended appointments vote yes, and those opposed vote no. Polls are open for voting. All delegates online have voted. Are there any questions in person? Chair will ask for the polls to be closed. There are 244 votes in favor, 21 opposed. There is a majority. The appointments of Linda Stanbridge as Mission Center President and Jessica Montague as Mission Center Financial Officer are sustained for 2025. This time we will join in a moment of blessing with a hymn. We may not. We appear not to have those slides. So we will not sing, but if we could maybe play a couple times through just as a moment of blessing for us. Thank you, and thank you to Linda and Jessica for accepting the invitations to leadership roles for the Mission Center. There will be a setting apart for Linda in the role of Mission Center President this afternoon during the 2 o'clock Prayer for Peace worship. The next class of business is reports of officers. Reports from officers, boards, teams, and committees can be found on pages 9 through 37 of the conference handouts. Delegates are encouraged to read through the written reports and share the information with congregations. Materials are also available on the Fall Conference webpage. Highlights of some reports will be presented verbally to the conference throughout the day. Please use the raise hand feature or online or approach the microphone while a report is being shared if you would like to ask a question about a particular report. The first report is from the chair as Mission Center President, which can be found on pages 9 through 11. A few highlights are shared on the screen of congregation changes that have occurred since the last conference and some updates that we'll be hearing about throughout the presentations as well. There is one correction to the calendar, which is found on page 11. The senior leisure camp at Blue Water Campground has adjusted their date to start one day earlier than was printed on the calendar. So we'll be starting in 2025 on Sunday, which would be September 21st. Is that correct? Yes. So the calendar printed, and there are copies of the calendar out on near the registration tables you can take back for your congregation to post, along with a poster on how to stay connected with communications. That is one correction. The start date under September for the leisure camp will be the 21st. These are, of course, tentative. And throughout the year, things may change as necessary. So follow Mission Center updates as needed to find those details throughout the year. Are there any questions on the Mission Center President report? Well, the chair conveys thanks for support this year and the past 10 years. It's been greatly appreciated to work with all of you and so many others in doing our best to provide ministry and pursue mission. As reported, it has been a relatively stable year given the several years of challenges we've had. And so it is a good time to transition in leadership and to move forward into what may come next for us as a body. The written report of the Mission Center Financial Officer can be found on pages 12 through 25 of the conference materials. At this time, the chair recognizes Jessica Montague to speak to the report.
Good morning. If any of you are number people, you will be in luck. There are several pages of financial reports in our packet. Just to briefly explain those, starting on page 13 is the Internal Financial Procedures Inspection Report from 2023. That's what we formerly called an audit. After that, we have our current financial statements for the Mission Center, and that includes information about additional funds and family camps and youth camps as well. There's a summary of funds if you have questions about any of those names that you see on the reports. And then we move towards where we want to go or what we are planning. So there's a page that shows you the Mission Center commitments for 25. And that is mainly what we base the budget off of. So just to give you some information about that, we use that number. That's the number that's reported by congregations that they decide what they are going to give to support the Mission Center and its ministries. So then there's the budget proposal and a narrative that explains those different line items as well. After all of the Mission Center stuff in the packet, there's then a couple reports from campgrounds. So there's a summarized campground statement from year-end 23, and then one from September 30th of this year. So it lists all 3 campgrounds and gives you the status of where they're at, where they were and where they're at now. With all that information there, a lot of it, I would say, speaks for itself. You can look at the numbers. They've been presented and available for a few weeks now. I am happy to answer any questions. If you want to find me here, or if not here, you can contact me anytime to ask those questions. What I mainly want to do today, before we get to approving the report and the budget, is thank you. Not only am I very grateful for those who help in various ways, those who do our financial inspections, help with managing campground finances, those who are congregational finance officers, but also just everyone, because it takes all of us. So I just want to thank everybody who gives their support of the Mission Center and the ministries. Are there any questions on the report? Do you want to handle the next part? I will pass it back to Dan.
The Mission Center Financial Officer has recommended adoption of the 2023 Financial Procedures Inspection Report for the Michigan Mission Center. Chair refers the conference to pages 13 through 15 of the conference materials for the 2023 report. Is there a second? There is a second. The question is on the adoption of the 2023 Financial Procedures Inspection Report. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. Those in favor of adopting the inspection report, please vote yes. Those opposed, no. Polling can open. Just a moment for it to open. Chair is making sure online delegates have enough time to vote. There has been a request for additional time. are no more votes being cast, so the chair asks for the polls to close. There are 255 votes in favor and 8 votes opposed. There is a majority. The report is adopted. The Mission Center Financial Officer has also recommended adoption of the proposed 2025 Mission Center operating budget. The chair refers the conference to page 22 of the conference materials for the proposed budget. Are there any questions relating to the proposed budget before the question is stated for discussion? So are there any questions? There's a question from online. Has there been any consideration of instituting a nominal fee for youth camps to try to offset some of the shortfall going forward? The youth camp funding is not impacted by the current motion of operating budget, but to that question, yes, there are discussions each year on how the program will be managed, and staff have considered with directors if there should be a deposit or fee and how that would work. And so far each year, it's been determined to continue with the fully generosity-based model. For the coming year, a new team is being formed to look at youth camp funding and how to promote that. That does not apply to the operating budget. Chair recognizes Kelly Christian.
Kelly Christian Eastside Congregation. I got a question regarding the proposed budget and the process of our salaries for our employees and stuff. It keeps like it's in, well, I gotta raise this up a little bit maybe. I think that, you know, we are looking to increase our budget by about $11,000, $13,000 it looks like, and expect our donors to increase quite a bit. But a lot of our budget to support for 2025 comes from investment earnings, and that's from the sale of properties and our investment stuff. Can we sustain that? I don't know if we can do that. I think we need to be looking at having some self-sustaining people to do that. And our congregation has gone from 100 in the Mission Center to less than around 60. At some point, we can't sell assets to maintain salary. The World Church, their donor base is shrinking. Can we get donors to contribute to support these salaries? I'm concerned that our salaried people, we love them dearly, but if we can't support a budget and they got families to feed and stuff, and they're asking donors to put more money in, it may not be there. And our investment pool may not put out 12% for a few years. And where do we get the money to support these people and their salaries? I don't think we're looking at self-sustaining people enough. Not that we don't have quality people that are being paid. We have a lot of volunteers that could help reduce that budget. So I'd ask the Mission Center Council to kind of look at that more in the first presidency, to have us have self-sustaining people and not rely so much on our selling assets for increase our budget.
So the question is on the income, if the listed items are sustainable. The budget pages on 22 and 23 do provide a narrative, and you can see that the first line item for congregational support is supported by the report on page 21. Those are commitments voted on by congregations for 2025. And additional commitments have been received since the time of printing. You'll see some that were not reported. So commitments do exceed the proposed congregational support line item. Contributions are based on previous year results, and you'll see those in the audited numbers. That is an unknown figure. The investment earnings for mission support is based on a spending percentage of 4%, so that is deemed to be a sustainable amount based on what we expect the investment pool balance to be. we're only drawing a 4% amount from that. Those are provided by the presiding bishopric for all congregations and local jurisdictions to use. There are no transfers from designated ministry funds. The congregation campground services income is based on previous year payments, primarily for payroll services. Interest income is calculated based on the expected returns from Pool B on the funds not held in Pool A, so all of the other collected assets. And again, that's based on current numbers and projected interest rates. And then other income is an estimate on what comes in typically from a previous year's commitment that was not recorded during that year. So the Mission Center officers feel all of these numbers are sustainable and reasonable for 2025. We can't speak to any future year projections. Are there any other questions on the proposed budget? All right, the motion is before the body as recommended by the financial officer. Is there a second? There is a second. And the question is now before the conference on adopting the proposed budget for 2025 as proposed. Is there any debate? Seeing no one seeking the floor. The question is on adopting the proposed Mission Center budget. Voting will be conducted by polling. Those in favor of adopting the budget, vote yes. Those opposed, please vote no. The polls will open momentarily. Polls are open for voting. There are no further votes being recorded, so the chair will ask the polls to be closed. There are 238 votes in favor, 32 votes opposed. There is a majority. The budget is adopted as proposed. $238 in favor, 32 opposed. Without objection, the conference will now enter a time of recess until 11:45 a.m. In that time, you're welcome to move 10:45 a.m. Thank you. During the recess time, the chair will work on getting the ballot for the Park at the Pines board election. If you know that you registered with a spouse or other partner using the same email address, and you have a second email address that could receive a ballot, there'll be a sign-up list to put your name and a second email address. That does help in getting everyone a ballot. If you don't have a second email address, that's fine. We have other options. But if you do have one and you know that you registered together with the same person, that helps make it a little bit easier. If not, we'll work with you during lunch to get access to a second ballot. Without objection then, the conference is in recess until 10:45 a.m. Your call.
I feel like it's working and I'm scared to break it.
Yeah, I
That's what I thought too.
Video play, which on that computer. Try it.
Not have to do it. We could just have them get themselves back together and start the hymn.
All right, please find your seats. We'll be singing a hymn to gather us back into session. Please return to your seats.
Are Bobby Ann and Dean playing the music when they're ready? Okay.
Should be a conversation on this.
Usually they're easy to find because they're so tall.
All right, we're ready to go, Dean. All right, we believe we might be able to sing with the slides. Test our connections at this point. We'll be singing God's Melody of Peace. conference will come to order. The time of recess has expired. You need the link again to pull up the meeting documents. The code is before you. The internet did not allow for fully completing the ballot to get it sent, so the chair will be continuing to work on that in the next section of business where reports are given. So hopefully those instructions will be ready before we start lunch very soon. As this section of reports is given, without action, the chair will I will relinquish the chair to Linda Stanbridge for guiding through the reports. Hers is first on the list.
Good morning. It is really good to be with all of you in person and see all of you outside of your little Zoom boxes, your legs and whole torsos and entire people. It's just really good to see all of you together. And it's nice to be here in this space that we haven't used in a while. Hopefully you've had some time. I'll put in a plug since we're waiting for Dan to work on our ballot anyway. Hopefully you'll have some time to visit the booths over here. This is one of the things that's back again in this location. And so make sure you check out our awesome guests that are with us. If you want to look at the full report, that's on page 26 of your conference materials. And I was kind and kept it pretty short for you. A few things that we're working on that fall under this role of MCISM, which might be one of the longer acronym titles in Community of Christ, but that stands for Invitation Support Minister. And so I've had an opportunity to work with many of you in your congregations over the last 5 years that I have held this position. I think you probably know, if you've worked with me, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is inclusion. And so I've really enjoyed, especially in the last couple years, working with so many of you in your congregations on the Harmony Welcoming and Affirming program. And this is in the second paragraph of that report. I'm just really excited and want to kind of congratulate these congregations that have already completed Harmony's Welcoming and Affirming program. And we are at 9 congregations that have finished this program. So I think you should give yourselves a round of applause. And you should know that I brag about you all and how wonderful our mission center is. Of the mission centers, if you were to go and look at the Harmony map, where are all the welcoming and affirming congregations, Michigan has the most by far. So you should all be very proud of the environment that we're creating here. The congregations that have already completed this program, shoot, I lost my spot here. The congregations that have already completed this program, Beyond the Horizon, Riverview, West Branch, Waterford, Mount Pleasant, Big Rapids, East Lansing, and Spiral. I think if my math is right, I missed one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And Blue Water, our newest congregation who completed the program. So thank you to all the hard work from those congregations. And then currently in training is Kalamazoo, Capital, and Grand Valley. So lots of good stuff going on in that department. We're also doing really well on New Expressions, which is kind of a Community of Christ term, but it just means these new ways of being church. What is Community of Christ going to look like, not in the far future, but in the future that's right now, the unfolding future? What are people's needs and how does that look different? I've listed the names of some of the amazing people who are working on these programs: Dorothy Summer, Karen Smith, Erica Nye, Julia Wismer and Annika White, Winnie Johnston, Sue Lader, and Renee Congleton are all working on these new ministries that are deeply Community of Christ, but look maybe a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. I think the future probably includes more types of ministry and not fewer types of ministry. So all of these are a little bit unique and doing different things. What I think is really special about some of our new expressions too are how kids are included intentionally. So if you're looking at the list here of the new, I don't think I gave you a list this year of our new expressions. That would be Faith Connections, God Without Boundaries, Little Fish, Sanctuary, the Sanford Gathering, and a Wednesday small group. And Little Fish and Sanctuary are both specifically for young kids. So Little Fish is for our elementary school age kiddos, and we even have a preschooler who comes and makes really important contributions. And then Sanctuary for our junior and senior high kids. So really intentionally including those guys in the future of the church. If there are any questions on the report, I won't belabor the whole thing, since you can read it there on page 26. Questions at all? All right, and you might notice when you look through the packet, and we'll talk some more about that later, that the MCISM role is not one that's filled when you look at the list of recommended leaders for 2025. That's the position that I have filled. And we'll continue to explore who will be the ideal person to fill that role and what parts will they take on. So any questions or anything? All right, thank you. So since Dan has made me temporarily the chair, I will go ahead and call on Winnie Johnston if she is in the room. I know that she was with the kids. There's Winnie. Thank you, Winnie, for the Mission Center Camping and Gathering report.
Whew, I ran up here from the kids are taking a tour of campus, and they're going to end at the museum. They're having fun, but they're whining about all the walking. Seriously. I mean, I was, but I was doing it quietly in my head. My name is Winnie Johnston, although one of the conference kids has renamed me Tiffany. I kind of like that better, so if you want to refer to me as Tiffany today, I won't answer you, probably. And I focus on camping and gathering events that we do throughout the year, things that are sponsored by the Mission Center. I don't know which page in the 27. I think I have more than one page. So one says Mission Center Retreats and Events. And we do quite a bit through the year. I'm going to skim over it. I don't want to read verbatim what you can read yourself. But one thing I'm very proud of is the Mission Center Youth Camp Directors Retreat. We do this every winter. We've been doing it for several years now. I think we even did it the COVID year because we did it in January and everything got shut down in March. But what that has done is it's created an environment amongst all of our camp leaders where we're working together. What's the saying? A high tide lifts all boats, a rising tide, that's it. And that's what it's become. We've all become friends, and we network together, and we help each other. And I find out through the grapevine that they call each other that I don't even know about. And they talk about private things even, and things in their own lives. So that really works well to make our camping program successful. We do a family camp retreat in the winter at Blue Water and Park of the Pines because they have some winterized buildings. We do nature retreats. There are 2 youth retreats each year, one in the fall, one at Park of the Pines, one in the winter at Blue Water. Danny Lebrecq has begun doing spec retreats, and she'll, I think, has a chance to talk about that later, so I won't tread on her ground, but that's been great. And we do, did I already mention the nature retreats? These are really cool. I mean, our campgrounds are perfect places for us to go and spend time in nature. My son, who loves being outdoors, and for maybe 15 minutes majored in outdoor rec in college, along with lots of other majors. He told my husband and I once, when my husband and I did a little podcast, you can look for that, and we interviewed our son. It was the funnest thing because we treated him like, found out that he was an adult, and he had good things to say, and he said, there are studies that show when you spend time in nature, it resets your brain. It centers you, it calms you down, it helps alleviate anxiety, lower your blood pressure. We have those resources. So nature retreats, we do them at all 3 campgrounds, and we do them at the same time, which I always think is so cool, kind of a synergy of You know that they're doing this at Sanford and we're doing it at the park and they're doing it down at Blue Water. They're all maybe shaped just a little bit different. Some have a little bit more program than others, but it's a time to go to the campgrounds and enjoy nature. Coming up, December 7th, we will have an Advent event, and that's also at each campground, right? So look for, I don't have a lot of details on what that's going to look like this year, but look for that on the church updates and save the date. I'm going to save youth camping for last, I think. So we're going to go to family camping. It's a short little review on in your booklet or your packet. We do camping right, guys. We have been meeting at family camps for over 100 years. Stacy, do you know an exact time? I'm testing you. Okay, she says no, but I know details from Park of the Pines, and Park of the Pines was purchased in 1919, so it was 100 years old in 2019. The first reunion was in 2020. So we've been doing in Michigan, we've been doing family camps for, what's the math, 104 years? We know how to do this. And with congregations getting smaller and congregations closing, I think that our family camps become even more important for us to gather, like we are here this weekend, in a larger group. And, there's something very quaint and intimate about singing the Spirit of God in your congregation of 12 people. But there's something about singing it in an old rustic building with 120 people that really fills you up. So our family camps, I think, are great. We're doing well, but our numbers are dwindling. And if you look at the report, I think I mentioned some numbers. And I guess what I want to say about that is, come on. We've got a great thing going there. Invite people to come with us. Invite your friends to come and experience. And the great thing about family camp is you don't have to commit to the whole week. Come for a day, come for an event. You can come for the week and treat it like your vacation, which it is. And maybe you go to the local farmer's market that week, or you go for a day and go to Mackinac Island or whatever amenity, is around. I'm like talking with my hands. But take in a family camp because they are wonderful things. How many people here attended a family camp this past summer? You know what I'm talking about. So let's get those numbers back up. We've all had to fight a little bit after COVID to rebuild programs, and I think they are coming back, but we all have to put a little effort into that. Okay, youth camping. Our camps change lives. Do you believe that? How many people here feel like a youth camp changed their life? This summer, we had a camper at senior high camp at Park of the Pines who had never been to a sleepaway camp before, not of any kind, not even like 5th grade camp where they take kids and go. He'd never been to a camp. He was from far west in the UP, and he had a friend who lived in Traverse City who invited him. And his mother was a little nervous, but really wanted him to have this experience, and he loved it. Now, I always think the kids are gonna love swimming or the color run or whatever all the fun things are. But Bill and I were sitting with the kids at lunch one day, and this new camper said, "What is this worshiper's path we're doing tonight?" And all the other kids around, not even just at this table, all the kids around in the table said, "Oh, you have to take that seriously. This could change your life. This is really meaningful. Take it seriously." And one girl said, "Yeah, the first year I did it, I made the mistake of looking at my friend in the eyes and I started laughing and I ruined the whole thing for myself. This is really important." I was shocked. Because I think that, when we get real serious and we have to be quiet and we have to, read things and contemplate, that maybe these kids are not into that. You know what? They were into that. The next day I asked them, "What'd you think of the worshipers walk?" "Oh, that was great. That was wonderful." Camp changed his life. He went from camp and tried to figure out a way, and did manage to figure out a way, to come to family camp. He had to get someone to sponsor him. And then he was recently at the youth retreat. And then I got an email from his mother. My son wants to take youth worker training because he wants to be a CIT at junior camp next summer. Our camps change lives. Our goal after COVID was to increase our numbers by 5 campers at each camp every year. Really getting a dry mouth. You guys are not prepared. Oh my God, that's not water. It's not what you think either. So we fell a little short. This year we hope to have an average of 30 campers at each camp, and we fell a little short of that goal. We challenged our congregations to send at least 1 camper to camp and send at least 1 person as staff to a camp and to contribute financially. Our numbers were steady from last year, and we are growing since COVID, but we want to press the gas a little bit. Our goal is to get to a sustainable number, which would be 50 kids per camper. That would keep us viable, bring in enough money to keep the program viable, and to fill our mission. So that brings me to money. Money is not my thing I like to talk about, but we pay for our camps through a generosity model. Do you all understand how that works? Does anybody not understand? Because I don't want to go through it if you get it. Okay. So we want every camper that wants to come to camp. So we make it easy for them to pay the full amount of what it costs, maybe less, maybe more, maybe nothing. But that way every kid can come to camp. Our camps cost about $350 for a week-long camp, which is cheap. We know how to do camp, guys. We can make it fun on a shoestring. I was recently talking to some people who said they sent their kids to a YMCA camp, but they couldn't do it every year because $2,500 is a lot of money. We know how to do camp. But we haven't made our budget for this year. We are still trying to raise $20,487 to meet our budget for this year. So I'm going to mention the auction. Not every camp, most of the camps created 1 or 2 auction items. Some camps even did 3, I think. Quality, nice items that you can bid on during the day today. All of that money will go towards our camping budget. The offertory this afternoon will go towards the camping budget. I also have some envelopes over at the camping table that have Jessica's address already on them. If you want to take one with you because you're not prepared to make a donation today, but you might mail one in the next little while, you can always go online. I think there's a description over there of how you can go to the youth camping website, which is MichiganYouthCamps.org. Say it back to me. You got it. And from there, you can navigate to a place where you can donate, you can sponsor a camp. As we get closer to camps, you can register. It's all right there. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. Oh no, one more thing. The Mission Center has come up with a creative idea. I wish I could take full credit for this idea because it's genius. But we have created, or in the process of creating, task forces for each campground, for each area, Blue Water, Sanford, Park of the Pines. And it's a task force made up of people from that area, not camp directors. You know, they're already doing a lot of work. It's other people who are going to work on inviting people to camp, maybe extending the invitation for staff as well, but mostly for inviting people to camp. We really want to make sure that as many Community of Christ kids get to camp as can, but we also want to make sure that our communities around our campgrounds realize that our campgrounds are not exclusive. You don't have to be a member to be a camper at one of our camps. And we have had I'm not favoring Park of the Pines, it's just the one I'm most familiar with because I live there. But we have started an art camp that happens at Park of the Pines. The art camp partners with the local art gallery. The art gallery provides art teachers. We provide the camp experience. So that camp is really unusual because we're lucky if it's 1/3 Community of Christ kids. The rest are community kids or kids who somebody from the community reached out to. And they have fallen in love with our camp too. And 3 of those kids who had no association with Community of Christ but had gone to our camp came to the fall youth retreat this year. So this is working. We know how to do camp. One more thing, I want to pat ourselves on the back on for what we do with our camping programs. This year, when the fire and safety inspector came to Park of the Pines, he's been working with Bill, doing the inspections for 11 years now, and he's gotten to the point where he's really trying hard to find things to nail us on, and he loves to do that. But we've gotten to be really friendly with him, and he sat down and he said, yeah, you guys know what to do. And he said, I'm still in awe of how you guys run your programs with volunteers. He said, I had 6 camps this year, commercial camps, camps that charge a lot and pay their staff, that are not opening because they could not find staff. 6 camps that pay staff. We run our camps with volunteers. I think we should be really proud of what we do. And I know that you all do it because it's in your heart. And you believe in our mission, you believe in our enduring principles. Don't get me on my soapbox about those, but they're great. And so I want you to read these. They're not all flowers and tiptoeing through the garden. Oh yes, the matching funds. But we still got to work hard. We got to get more people to enjoy what we have. We can't just take advantage of it and forget how privileged we are. We've got to share this. I just got a note from the boss about have you read on the announcements about the matching funds for the camping program? Some anonymous donors have donated money, the total of $3,500. And so any donations from September and October and November will go towards that matching program. So this is a good time to give because every dollar you give will be matched. So today's offering, will that count toward that? So give now. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Winnie. We're going to move on to reports of committees and teams. And the written reports of the Spectacular Delegation, the Earth Stewardship Team, and Naming, Claiming, and Acting the Change, which is the Diversity and Inclusion Team, can be found on pages 30 to 32 of your conference handouts. And we'll start by recognizing the one and only Danny LeBrecq to comment on the Spectacular Delegation. And while Danny does that, I'm going to try and get the video going. Remember, we are having internet problems, so your patience is appreciated.
Hello all. Some highlights and some goals from this year and for next year. Michigan SPET partnered with Team Canada East to become Michicanon for SPET 2024. and Michigan became a delegation that was welcoming and supportive to all, including from and for the LGBTQ plus campers and staff. So that was an awesome thing to have and be supportive. We had campers part of many activities, including SPET Presents the Claw, SPET Got Talent, and all the sports. It was a good supportive group for all activities. Few of our goals for 2025 is try to keep the partnership with Canada going, have 20 to 25 campers for Michigan to go SPEC, and have the Michigan SPEC retreat at Blue Water. That was an awesome time last year, and I hope we keep it going. They had so much fun to just playing and being together and learning with each other. We all can be a beacon to our youth, to be an example of love, hope, joy, peace, friendships, and a welcoming community to all people. SPET is a place where all these things happen, and we need your help to continue that journey of Michigan SPET by giving your time, testimony, gifts, and talents. Go ahead and check out our table, get a sticker. We actually have our own logo now and a website, so check those things out and let your kids know about this amazing opportunity to be a part of. Because another cool thing about this is they just added more scholarships. A full ride to Graceland and even a half ride to Graceland and many other ones too. So it's a big opportunity for any senior hires while they're at SPAC, because those scholarships are only given at SPAC. Yeah, and I'll let the video show you more about SPAC.
I told you my story, you would hear hope that wouldn't let go. And if I told you my story, you would hear love that never gave up. If I told you my story, you would hear life, but it wasn't mine. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and when of the kindness of Jesus that draws me in. Oh, to tell you my story is to tell of Him. If I told you my story, you would hear victory over the enemy. If I told you my story, you would hear freedom that was won for me. And if I told you my story, you would hear life overcome the grave. If I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and where mercy This is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. Waking up to another life, no more sorrow and no more night. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Burning bright 'cause we're not ashamed, got a world to illuminate. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Come on, are you ready? Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness, and we declare your kingdom's here. Because our God is for us, we're living in the promise, and we declare your kingdom's here. Shadows fade as you now arise. Hope is here with no end in sight. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. You're the light, let it shine now, let it shine now. Nothing can stand against us. Our praise will break the darkness, and we declare your kingdom's here. Because our God is for us, we're living in the promise, and we declare your kingdom's here. Shine a light, shine a light. 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 We got a light and we gotta shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we gotta shine. Forever let your name be glorified. We got a light and we gotta shine. Jesus, let your name be glorified. We got a light and we gotta shine. Forever let your name be.
Thank you, Danny, for putting the video together, and also thanks to Charlie Kuhn, who assists Danny in getting our kids safely halfway across the country and then having the time of their lives. I get to share with you this morning the report on the Earth Stewardship Team, which you can also see in your conference handouts. I don't have a great video with music, and I apologize because I didn't know I was going to be shown up today by Danny, but you can take a peek there. We did meet several times this year, and I think we'll speak some more to this later. But we did meet a few times this year to talk specifically about the resolution that came from the fall conference last year. And so the Earth Stewardship team met in partnership with the youth camp directors and family camp directors. I know we're involved as well in discussing, how is this plant-based meals resolution, what would that look like? What are the directors' opinions? And it was really fun to be able to work with the camp directors and just understand a little bit more what their role is like and what the Earth Stewardship team can be doing to support them a little bit better, not only in reducing carbon, but what are some of the other things that we can be providing, some educational tools and support staff as well. So it was really fun to be able to work with that larger group of people as well. Our thanks to Abby Nowicki, who planned and coordinated really detailed effort on Facebook during Lent to work on reducing meat in your own diet with the goal of course, reducing carbon. And so it was really interesting in this group to see the discussion. And people were sharing, I can't be vegan because of my health concerns. I really need to have my diet this way. And someone might say, oh, you would really like this recipe. Or people just sharing, you might think you wouldn't like this vegetarian recipe, but I tried this in my house and my kids actually ate it. So it was really neat to see not only the education and kind of just trying to grow our concept of how in our lives sacredness of creation is lived out, but also just the sharing, getting to know people. And I think one of the really cool things about this Lent group was that we had people outside Community of Christ that were coming in to see what are we doing, what are the things that we're sharing, what are we passionate about. Social media has its frustrations and downfalls, but sometimes social media does really great things for us too. And so thanks to Abby for all of her organization and work on that as well. Dan's not here because he is working on the ballot. But I want to just note, because Dan is very humble, and this is in the report as well, that Dan has continued to work on some solar roofing projects at various congregations. And I apologize that I don't know the list, because he does that, of congregations that are getting roof repairs or even replacements and getting solar panels with that as well, which is a lot of work. And he does an amazing job coordinating those things with our partners outside of Community of Christ. Everything else I think is in the report, and I don't want to belabor that since we're going to talk more about the resolution later on. But thank you to everyone who has served on the Earth Stewardship team. This year we had some new members, which was really exciting. So lots of good opportunities for next year as well. Are there any questions on the Earth Stewardship team report? You guys are making it easy on me today. All right, I would recognize Rob Rafson from Michigan Solar Faithful to provide a presentation for us this morning about solar energy for faith community facilities. And he does have a booth over here again. I'll keep plugging that. He didn't come here for nothing, so make sure you introduce yourselves and say hi. Let's welcome Rob for a short presentation.
Good morning. Yeah, it's great to see you all. I'm really happy to, for more than 20 years, I've been trying to figure out how to connect faith-based organizations with solar. And until this last couple of years, finally all the pieces fit together. And so taking the information and the technology and being able to analyze the needs of the church and then develop a plan and bring in financing now that we've been able to connect the two. And for, next slide is good. And so we've been able to basically bring together the expertise and the financing to allow churches to get solar either for no cost up front, and that's a power purchase agreement. That's where we have an impact investor who buys the solar panels, puts them on the roof, and then the church buys the power at a discounted rate. It's not a great amount of savings, but it's better, it's for those churches that can't afford to adopt solar. In the case of the projects that we've done for the Community of Christ, all of them have been purchases because when you connect both the roof cost and the solar cost, then you can share the incentives, or you can cover the incentives of both the roof and the solar project, thus allowing you to greatly reduce your roof cost, and the solar stands on its own. And effectively, you can think of it as, by adding solar panels, the future roof cost will be funded. So it's a way to actually decrease the expenses of each of the churches now and going forward. So next slide. So as I said, the power purchase agreement is where a third-party investor invests in the project. They're an impact investor, and I think about 11% of their investments are in faith-based organizations. So that's kind of cool as well. And then there's the direct purchase, which is what we've done for the 5 projects we've done so far in the Community of Christ churches. And the next one. Yeah, so these are the projects that we've completed thus far. Grand Valley, Boyne, Crossroads is in progress, and we're going to be doing Detroit Hope this fall, I think. So, yeah, I think. Here's the one, this is Grand Valley, and yeah. And then we've, just to show you that how we actually have monitoring where you can actually see at any given day how every individual panel and the overall performance and the savings over time. And what's this? Boyne City. And it's interesting, Boyne City has already said, well, we might want to add a few more panels because we're thinking of adding an EV charging station. So that's so thinking forward about how we can reduce our impact on the earth, it's not just to say solar, but as we start shifting to electric vehicles, we want to be sure that the energy that we're putting into the vehicles also green. So, and that'll reduce the amount of petroleum we use as well. Next one, I think. Oh, this is just a picture of what the inverter looks like on the outside. Next one. And then these are some of the other projects that we've done for other organizations over time. One of the things that's kind of interesting is I've started to ask the question of different churches, what social impacts have they seen in their churches? And about half of them have said that they have increased attendance. And in fact, not only increased attendance, but increased younger attendance. And so one of the Pastor Glass of the Lord of Lords Ministries in Detroit, he told me, he says, since we got solar, I eat less pork. And I'm like, really? And he says, actually, because they have younger people, and when they have potluck, they had to change the menu to include more vegetarian and vegan things. And then his wife says, okay, we're not going to have any fried food anymore, much to his chagrin. But so at the result is that he ends up eating less pork. So I think that it's important to think also about how demonstrating your commitment to the earth and showing to the community how they can do it as well. One of the other social impacts is many of the churches have found that their congregants have put solar on their houses. And so we can broaden the impact on the community as well. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rob, and Michigan Solar Faithful. Now the chair will recognize Erica Nye to comment on the report of the NCAC Diversity and Inclusion Team.
Morning, everyone. I'm Erica. I've been serving as the chair for our diversity and inclusion team for the Mission Center for the last 3 years. We call ourselves Naming, Claiming, and Acting the Change. We wanted to just lay out there in our chosen title what we hope to inspire in our congregations. So our overall aim here is to do our best to encourage congregations and disciples to best live out our blessings of community, our principle that all are called, and enjoy the unity and diversity that we feel like we're called to as well. So you can see in our report some of the things we've done in the last year. The team meets monthly to come up with ideas of ways of supporting congregations and disciples in being more inclusive and welcoming in our congregations. And I guess I want to say that really what we're trying to do, what we hope to do, is find ways to help us widen our circles as individuals in our hearts, in our gathering practices, in our spaces. How can we expand ourselves to include more? And then maybe expand ourselves, stretch ourselves to include even more. People who are different from ourselves, who we never thought we could include before, always be looking ways to grow our circle of our faith community. So that's what we exist to do, to help you to find ways to do that. So if you are looking in your own congregation or other gathering communities, think how can we be more inclusive, expansive, share Christ's love into more people, give us a call. We'll see what we can do to offer support. In the last year, one of the things we're most proud of doing is offering what has become now an annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration. That's taken the form of worships or educational opportunities, and we hope to continue that into the future. And anything else I want to share? Oh, yeah, speaking of into the future, one of the next things we're looking forward to for this January and February, in part in honor of Dr. King's Day and Black History Month, is a book club we'll be offering on a book called The Three Mothers, which look at the life experiences of Dr. King, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin. And it's a fascinating look at their experiences and how that led to the lives of their sons who so greatly impacted our society. So I invite you to look for that and join us for that next spring. We are looking forward to also some transitions in leadership. I'll be stepping down as the lead of this group, although I continue to expect to support it. So I think that will give us also opportunities to connect to some of the things that Dan has been up to also. So look for those changes in your information in the coming weeks. Thank you for your support of us, and we hope that we can continue to offer our best support for you.
All right, thank you to Erica for that. And next, Daniel Sosa from Samaritas is recognized to provide a presentation about refugee foster care. So a warm welcome, please, for Daniel from Samaritas, one of our important organizations that we partner with.
Good morning, everyone. When you were stopping by the table, I was pleased to hear that so many of you know what Journey House is in East Lansing. It's great. So yeah, all the youth who live in Journey House or have lived there have come through Samaritas' refugee foster care program, which is where I work. So I brought a few slides to talk about what I do. So the first, or where I want to start is, what is a refugee? We hear that word a lot in the news and that sort of thing. So the slide here talks a little bit about what that means. So basically, a refugee is somebody who's been displaced from their home country. Now, across the world, there's a lot of people who have been displaced because of climate, war, all sorts of reasons. But when you have to actually leave your country, that's when you're considered a refugee. And as you can see on the slide, worldwide, right now, there's about 117 million people who are displaced, but only about 31.6 million are considered refugee. And I say only, but that's a very big number, obviously. Okay, next slide. I don't know why I'm looking up there. I can see it right here. So a little bit about our program. There's a couple classifications for the youth who come to the border: unaccompanied refugee minors and unaccompanied children. If a child is an unaccompanied refugee minor, that means that they receive that unaccompanied refugee minor status usually overseas, and they're resettled by the Department of State. When they turn 18, they'll have to apply for a green card, and 5 years later, they'll be a citizen. Okay, next slide. And we have worked with unaccompanied refugee minors since the 1970s. The other classification that the Office of Refugee Resettlement, which is who we contract with, uses unaccompanied child. So when a young person comes to the United States, you know, nobody knew they were coming, they just kind of show up and present themselves as a refugee, that's when they're considered an unaccompanied child. And so what they'll try to do before they turn 18 is become an unaccompanied refugee minor. And we work with both groups. A child really wants to be an unaccompanied refugee minor because when they turn 18, they can apply for a green card. If they don't get that status before they turn 18, it's like starting everything all over. They have to apply to be a refugee and go through the entire process again before they're officially given that refugee status. So these slides explain a little bit more about it. You know, they're all children. They're all unaccompanied, no families that they can stay with, that sort of thing. They've all gone through traumatic experiences to get here. But one main difference in the program is that we provide foster care for all these youth, but there's actually a room and board rate that they give per child if you'd like to be a foster parent and take care of these youth. Unaccompanied children are considered part or under the custody of the federal government. Unaccompanied refugee minors are considered to be under the custody of the state of Michigan. So it's kind of two different rates. So if you know anybody that'd like to do this sort of thing, you know, let them know. It's not something where you're going to have to, you know, provide for all the expenses of the child. The state of Michigan will give you the same room and board rate that they would any other foster child. You don't have to find them an immigration lawyer. We partner with an organization that provides all that care as well, all that legal help. People always ask me where they come from. So there's a lot of countries across the world where youth come from. If you read the news, pay attention to the world news, when something's going on, that usually means refugees are going to come from those parts of the world. Some of the countries in Africa are Ghana, Democratic Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Mauritania. In the Middle East, Asia, we get youth from Afghanistan, Syria, and then the majority of youth do come from Central America. You know, most recently, there was, a few years ago now actually, when the last presidential election happened, so 4 years ago, there was 2 hurricanes that hit Honduras back to back. And we never even heard about it really in the US here, but that caused a big influx of young people and people in general to come from Honduras. So as far as what Samaritas does, we consider these children as being on a journey, right? They're learning a new language, they're navigating a new culture, they're gonna go to high school, they're looking for jobs. Every young person I've ever met in a program, that's what they wanna do. They wanna work and they wanna send money back home to friends, you know? But they're also dealing with things like immigration court, applying for a green card, all while being a teenager. So at Samaritas, the number one thing we try to provide them with is a foster family. Right now, they're in an ORR facility somewhere around the country. We want to get them out of those facilities and into a loving home. And on our staff, we also have host families. Host families rent them a room after they turn 18. On our staff, we have mentors and tutors. Mentors are volunteers, tutors are a paid position. Many of the young people fall behind educationally on their journey here, so we pay tutors to work with them. We try to pair them with mentors who can be another adult voice in their life. We also have on our staff case managers, therapists, independent living coaches who teach them and work with them from the age of 16 onwards on how to learn to live independently. And we like to connect the kids to the community by doing volunteer work and attending community events whenever we can. And our rent a room program, a little bit more about that after they turn 18. Any young person who turns 18 ages out of foster care. So we always try to help find these kids a room to rent, because when you've only been in the country a couple of years, you need a little bit more help to really learn how to live in American society. Yep. Yep. So at Journey House, and the way this relates to this, in Journey House, the young people are renting a room there for 6 months at a time, and then after 6 months, the rate goes up. But it's a big help in learning and helping these young people learn how to live independently. So it's not really a handout, but it's kind of a hand up. You know, they're at 18, you know, if you've only been in the country, you know, 1 or 2 years, you need that little bit of a hand up to get to that point where you can live independently. A little bit more about mentoring. A mentor provides support to a refugee youth. Could be about advice, could be about cultural things. And they meet with the young person about once a month. Tutors work with the young person face to face, usually about 6 to 10 hours a week. It can also be done virtually. You know, if you want to mentor or you want to tutor a refugee youth, you know, they don't live in the same city, we can do it virtually. A little bit more about our group homes. You guys know about Journey House. We do operate a group home in Jackson. If you ever read any articles about the recent success of the Jackson soccer team, that's some of our youth that have joined the soccer team there, and they've had a great experience in Jackson. But it's mainly for older youth from the Africa area who are already unaccompanied refugee minors. And then we operate a group home in Grand Rapids, and that's for youth who do have a relative in the U.S., but they're going through a process where the paperwork process of being reunited with a family member. And that's our website if you'd like to learn more about it. We love to come to events like this and pass out information. If you ever have anything going on at your church or in your community where you think it'd be good for us to have a table or could come do a presentation, we love to do that sort of thing. And thank you guys for your support with Journey House. Appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our presenters this morning for those updates, reports, and information. This time we're entering into the lunch recess time. There are a few announcements before we break. There were some items taken from the Outreach International display table here on the end, and those were display only. So if you took those and could please return those. I think they were small animals and maybe a couple other items. That was a display-only table, so please return any items from Outreach International. Keep track of your voting device over the break. For those of you in person, you'll need these in the afternoon if you stuff them right in your name tag or pocket, but do keep track of those and bring them back. The ballot for the Park of the Pines Campground Board election is now available. So everyone who submitted an email address with registration should have received that. The system shows all of those emails have worked. Again, some of you had a duplicate email or registered with another person, so you may not have received that yet, and the table is ready to work through those individual cases. That will have gone to everybody who's checked in, so also if you didn't receive it, it may be that we didn't get you checked off properly on the list, and so we'll just need to activate your ballot and email address during the break. If it may have gone to your junk or spam message, so look for a notification, should say Michigan Mission Center, but it's actually from mail.invitations@electionbuddy.com. So during this season, that often gets flagged for junk and spam, so you may have to look there for an election-related invitation to the ballot. It'll take you to the link. If you did not have an email address or had a duplicate email address, if you do not have access to email at all, if you have someone with you today who has a phone or other device that could come with you for voting, that would make it a little easier because we can generate a QR code and that person's device can bring up your unique ballot on their device. So that will help us out if you do have somebody with you who could let you cast your ballot on their device. Lunch is available here at the university, at the marketplace at Doan. If you would exit up this side of the conference center, go down to the end of the building, down to the first floor and turn right, there are signs directing you to the marketplace. That is a buffet-style lunch with lots of different stations and choices. I believe people said it was a $13 per person fee for all you care to eat in the restaurant. I think there was an effort to bring senior high to a table with spec. So if you see Danny, who reported, and you want to talk more about spec, Danny's going to be available in the restaurant for senior high to join with and hear about that. Again, announcements to visit the display tables again. I think some of our guest presenters will be leaving after we recess here, so you have a last chance to talk with them. The Sanford giveaway and the youth camp silent auctions are available all throughout lunch. This evening, there's an opportunity to gather with other delegates at Beef O'Brady's restaurant, and they are taking a reservation for the group. Dorothy Summer is organizing that. There is a sign up over there on the table along the wall. Dorothy needs to know if you're interested in attending that group by the end of the lunch break, right? So by 2 o'clock, sign up there or find Dorothy to get added to that group reservation. Individuals can pay for their own meals, but there's a room or tables that'll be set up to socialize and do activities or games through the evening. So that's an opportunity to gather with others for dinner at Beef O'Brady's restaurant. When we come back at 2 o'clock, we'll be starting with a prayer for peace, which will include the setting apart for Linda Stanbridge to the Mission Center president role and the opportunity to donate to the youth camp ministries. Following that worship experience at 2:30, there will be a mission funding presentation from some of our field and world church leaders who are here. We will keep the Zoom session open during the break for those of you online. So if you have any ballot-related questions for those of you joining online, you will be able to put those in the chat and reach us to resolve those questions. If you need to leave the meeting, you can leave and re-enter, but you'll be in the waiting room until entered back in. The actual business session, we're planning to call to order at 3 o'clock, so from 2 to 3 we'll be in that worship and presentation times. Are there any other announcements to be made before we break for lunch? The chair will ask Matt Kinzinger to come forward for a moment of blessing. So if there is no objection, the conference will recess until 3 o'clock following the prayer for following this prayer of blessing. Hearing no objection, the conference is in recess, and I ask you to listen to Matt.
It's so good to come together in fellowship, whether we're here in person and those joining us on Zoom. It's just good to embrace each other and to be a part of each other's lives. Sometimes we're so separated by things, but yet we come together in this situation today for deliberation, for blessing, and for worship. Let's pray before we go and get refreshed in lunch. Our Creator God, we're so thankful that you're with us each day. We're thankful for the blessing of being with us today and the opportunity to join together with others that are like-minded and looking forward to the things that we can accomplish because of the presence of your Son in our life. God, we open our hands and our hearts and our minds, and we blend them all together today, that we might continue to grasp where you are leading us and directing us. And in these moments, Father, before we go to get refreshed, we ask your blessing upon that food, that it might be edification for our body and for the continued fellowship that will take place there. We ask these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.